Akron, how you all doing tonight? I'm sorry, there's a little bit of noise. I didn't hear any of you. Akron, how are we all doing tonight? I don't know about you if you're feeling good, but I'm feeling real good right now. It's welcome to PechaKucha Akron, Volume 2. There are two things that I want to talk about today before we kick off the show. The first thing is, what is PechaKucha? I always joke, it's kind of like my name. No one really knows how to pronounce it. So my name is Onal, it rhymes with tunnel, but people just call me Al because they're like, I don't know how to pronounce that. Similarly, with PechaKucha, and I honestly don't even know if that's how you say it. I've heard PechaKucha, Pikachu, I've heard of that. So there are all sorts of variations, but I think more important than what you call it is what it actually is. And what it is a way for the creatives in this community to showcase all the amazing stuff that's going on right here in Akron, Ohio, right under our noses. Now, if you're not familiar with PK, and this is the first PK you've ever been to, the format is that each speaker presents 20 slides that last for exactly 20 seconds apiece. And so they'll be displaying up there, and then they'll auto-advance, so the speaker doesn't have any control over when the next slide shows up. So things could get interesting. We're going to have 9 presenters today. So there's going to be 5 speakers who are going to speak first, then we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we're going to follow up with the final 4. So that's number 1. What is PK? The number 2 thing that I want to talk about is I want to play a quick game of Jeopardy. I'm going to give you the answer first, and then we're all going to figure out what the question is. So the answer is the Knight Foundation, the University of Akron School of Law, the Akron Global Business Accelerator, the Bit Factory, the Akron Civic, Crafty Mart, Arts Now, and the Akron Symphony. That was amazing. But when you say, who are our sponsors, that's absolutely incorrect because you need to modify sponsors with amazing, spectacular, unparalleled sponsors. So thank you so much to all of our sponsors. Now, we're going to have representatives from the 8 sponsors talk very briefly throughout the evening, so just a couple seconds apiece, and I'm going to knock 4 of them out right at the top. So, first of all, there's a lot of people here, and you're all eating a lot of food, and that food is free. That happens because of the Knight Foundation. So, and if you don't know what the Knight Foundation does for this community, you're living under a rock because they do so much to support the art scene, to support the culture scene, to support the community here. So thank you to the Knight Foundation, and thank you to Cal Kudici, who was behind this from the very beginning. Yeah, let's clap for it. Absolutely. The second of 4 that I'm going to talk about up front is the University of Akron School of Law. Now, you might think to yourself, how is a law school related to an event like this? Well, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we have a law school right here in Akron, Ohio that cares about building community. And you build community by supporting entrepreneurs and artists and nonprofits. And at the University of Akron School of Law, we have something called the Seed Legal Clinic. And what the Seed Legal Clinic does, and we actually have a few Seed students here tonight, is what we have 2nd and 3rd year law students who provide legal assistance to artists who aren't otherwise able to afford counsel, entrepreneurs who aren't otherwise able to afford counsel, because the law school believes in building community, and it starts with the people who believe there are no boundaries, and that's the artists and that's the startups. So thank you to the University of Akron School of Law. And specifically, I should mention our Dean, Matt Wilson, our Associate Dean, Bill Jordan, Professor Gary Spring, who's the Director of the Legal Clinic, and also Professor Brant Lee. So thank you for your support of PechaKucha. Next, we have the Akron Global Business Accelerator, which is an initiative of the City of Akron and led by Dr. Anthony Margita. It's a whole program where the city offers not just space, but mentorship, access to resources, connections for new businesses. So if you're starting a business, you should know about the Akron Global Business Accelerator. And clap for them, yeah. So, and then along with the Akron Global Business Accelerator is also the Bit Factory, and that's the final sponsor I want to recognize before we move on to the show, which is the City of Akron's Internet Startup Accelerator. So thank you so much to those 4 sponsors. You know, I gotta say that there's so much energy in this room, and there's so much energy in this community. And I hear people talk about how Akron is part of the Rust Belt. Well, I look at the speakers that we have here today, I look at the energy we have in the room, and I think to myself, we're not the Rust Belt, we're the creativity belt. We're the arts belt, we're the inspiration belt, we're the innovation belt, we're the technology belt, we're the entrepreneurship belt. We are the you better believe this city hasn't seen anything yet, because all of us collectively are gonna reach for the stars belt. So, and with that, let's kick it off to the MCs, Britt Cherrick, Heather Roschek, and Nicole Mullet, who, without further ado, will kick off PechaKucha Akron, Volume 2. Take it away, ladies.
Thank you guys for being here tonight. Most terrifying thing in the world is going on anywhere after Unol. So, how many of you guys were at the first PechaKucha? Awesome. So we got a little bigger, guys, right? And that was because of you. So thank you so much, everyone who believed in us and came out and was there for the first one and is going to keep going through all the volumes as we move forward. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about Arts Now. How many of you know what Arts Now is? The only appropriate response is clapping. Thank you, Roger Riddle, for doing a fantastic job, Carrie. Arts Now is a new nonprofit in Summit County. We're focused on developing the arts and culture scene. We love things like this. We love that this is happening, and we are so excited to partner tonight. We also have a new website that I want to make sure that I tell you about, which is Summit Live 365. And if you haven't seen it yet, you need to go on there. I see some people nodding, and I'm very proud of you, and I will find you and give you prizes later tonight. So thank you so much for being here. We have a really good reason to stay to the end, and it's not only ACE. Although that is a fantastic reason to stay to the end. We have some wonderful raffle prizes that some folks have donated tonight and to give away at the end of the evening, so don't leave early, you won't want to miss that. So this evening I have the pleasure of getting us started and introducing Mr. Jasen Sokol. Jasen, thank you. Thank you. People in the back row who clap for Jasen. Let's all do that. Thank you, guys. Jasen is definitely worth clapping for. So he is of WAKR. He's going to be speaking about why he loves Akron. And I had the distinct pleasure of meeting Mama Sokol just a few minutes ago, who shared some additional information. I'm so sorry, Jasen. Who shared some additional information about her son. She had high hopes that he would become an attorney to support her in her old age and provide an independent home for her. He has not done that. But she is still very, very proud of him. He was the spelling bee champion. He was the slot car racing champion. Yeah? I don't even know what that means, but I'm impressed. And he is here tonight to share with us about why he loves Akron, and he is definitely never having me on his show again. Thank you.
And Nicole, that's totally not true, by the way. I am going to have you on my show. I'm going to have you on every week now, because I know how nervous you get when you come on my show. Oh, that's all right. And I'll get my mom back in. But, you know, I was thinking about something as I was getting ready for this. And I was thinking about a little phrase that I was taught way back when, never judge a book by its cover. You know, you get taught that, your parents teach you that, that's not about fruit. And if you thought that 50 Shades was about colors, well, you were in for a rude awakening then, weren't you? But I'm guilty of this. I'm guilty of judging a book by its cover. And it's not 50 Shades or Grapes of Wrath. I judged Akron by its cover. I am guilty of this. I feel horrible about it. But if you understand where I come from, it might help you understand why I did this. See, I grew up in the Cleveland area. And in the Cleveland area, you know, you really don't hear a lot about Akron. You hear a little bit on the news. There's no real way to learn about Akron. You don't come here very often. It never used to be that way. You used to be able to go on to television and watch good old 23 Newsday with Mark Williamson and the rest of the 23 Newsday team. But we don't have that anymore. Channel 23 plays Law and Order reruns all day, every day. So you don't really have that anymore. So the best you have, if you're not from here, if you're from the Cleveland area, is what you hear from television news. And the things that you hear from television news just aren't that good. These are real headlines from one of the Cleveland news stations, which shall remain nameless. I went to their website and I clicked on Akron Canton, and this is what it said. So we've got, let's see what we have here. We have vigilantes, we've got starving dogs, professors that might be involved with ISIS, ambush training for sheriff's deputies. Yeah, it's a great place to live, right? Just such a great community, if you believe the news. And I went to Kent State too, which didn't help matters. You know, Kent State people, you know how this goes. It's screw the roo, it's the wagon wheel, it's all that stuff. So when I got hired in Akron, and this is where I get my mom back, the first words out of her mouth when I said that I got a job in Akron is, Akron? You're gonna get shot if you go to Akron. By the way, for the record, Mom, you've been in Akron after dark for about 3 hours. You haven't been shot, right? Very good. My mom, ladies and gentlemen. But so I started working here and everything started changing. I started to realize that how great this city was. Got hired on as a traffic guy and realized the highways looked like that and thought, all right, I can get into this town. You know, I'm not going to have to drive too far. I hear that if you drive 15 minutes, it's too far in Akron, something like that. The food here, oh my goodness, the food here is great. You learn that real quick when you come here. You learn that you got Nuevo and Crave, and you've got all the good places for food here in Akron. And well, I can't forget about Swenson's too, that's great. But you learn there's so much of everything in this town. You've got events, you've got the suburbs, you've got the parks. You've got everything you want within a 15-minute drive. And that's a good thing, because if not, some people won't drive it. I've had people tell me that driving across the valley is like driving like to Canada or something. I don't know what that's all about. I do it every day from work. But anyways, yeah, Swenson's. We gotta give it up for Swenson's, right? We have a whole culture of hamburgers here. How can you not love that? We've got Bob's and Mensch's and Skyway. We have a hamburger festival in Akron. Isn't that awesome? You don't get that in a lot of cities, but it's really cool. And we've got the great arts community here too, and Arnold alluded to it a little bit. Nicole, of course, alluded to it with Arts Now and the Art Museum and all the different artists around here. It's a wonderful place for creators, and I don't think people realize that. I actually had in here to use the term art belt, and then Arnold kind of took my thunder, but I think I took it from him originally. But it's true, that's what it is. And we've got performing arts here. Of course, we're here at the Civic tonight, and what a beautiful venue this is. And it's not the only one. We've got EJ, we've got Blue, we've got Jilly's, the Nightlight. You're going to hear from the owner of the Nightlight later. It's a great, great place to be if you are into the creative community. It's really something. And how many people have that 10 minutes from their house? We all do, right? We've got the park here, and the park's free. I'm told that the park isn't free everywhere. If you go to other places, other national parks, I hear there's like an admission charge or something. We don't have to do that. Hiking, biking, fishing, camping, and it's all free. How about that? Isn't that awesome? And we have great events here. We do get paid attention to every now and then. The marathon brings in thousands of people. The soapbox derby brings in thousands of people. You can actually go to Derby Downs now and drive a soapbox derby car on certain nights. Been there, done that, crashed the car, there's video. I actually have the broken pieces of the car. But I think the best part, getting back to the book analogy, is that we are still writing the book on Akron. There's a lot of that going on right now in Akron. A lot of change, a lot of construction, a lot of new things coming in. I think of all the possibilities for Akron, and it's just amazing. And it's the people in this room, I think, that are really going to do that. This is right down the street from the Civic, and right now, you look at that and you go, well, it's, it looks a little run down, a little, But look at it for what it really can be. I think we're on the brink of really revitalizing this downtown area with housing, with new restaurants, new shops, all of that. I think the best is yet to come. And North Hill, we saw what that looked like. Where are my Better Block people? Better Block? Bike lanes, parks, pop-up retail. You turn that community around, and that's going to look really, really special. I think that's going to be awesome when it all gets said and done. You guys came up with some great ideas. Better Block people. Good job. The inner belt. We are very fortunate in this community to have some sandboxes, and not the ones that you play with the little plastic shovels in, right? We've got the inner belt. We're going to rip that out because nobody uses it anyways, and who knows what they can put anything they want in there. So the possibilities are endless for the inner belt, retail, business, whatever. Rolling acres, everybody's favorite dead mall, right? Eventually, somebody's going to get that thing out of bankruptcy court, and somebody's going to do something special with that piece of property. There are not too many areas around here where you can say that you've got not one but two big-time pieces of vacant land, or soon-to-be vacant land. I left this slide blank on purpose, because the real reason why this city is going to be great is right here in front of me. It's all of you. Look around. Look to your left. Look to your right. It's all of you who are going to make this city great. That's the biggest thing. But I've got a question for you, and I want to leave you with this. And this is a question going back to the book analogy. What chapter will you write? What chapter will you write in the story of Akron? A lot of you here tonight, you've already started doing this. And if you have, great. If not, that's okay. Maybe you'll be inspired by one of the speakers tonight. Maybe you were inspired by me, I don't know. But what chapter will you write in the city of Akron story? I can't wait to see it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Jason. Let's give that guy another hand. Hi, everybody. My name is Heather Roszczak, and thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. The first thing that I want to do is give a quick shout out to Roger Riddle, who is over there. The music that you heard when you were coming in tonight is a mix that Roger put together that showcases all Akron bands. So if you are not following this guy on Mixcloud, you're missing out, and you should fix that immediately. So I am thrilled to be one of the organizers of PechaKucha, and I'm so excited to have all of you out here. However, I do have a day job as well. And for that reason, I want to ask, how many of you have been to an Akron Symphony concert in the last year? All right, that's not too bad. I have a lot of work to do, though, clearly. I'm the director of marketing for Akron Symphony, and in that position, I am privileged to work with a ton of amazing artists who pour their blood, sweat, and tears into their craft every day, which is, of course, music. I think that orchestras get a really bad rap, honestly, because, they're stuffy, and they're expensive, and they're only for special occasions. You have to know what to wear and when to clap, and you have to be old and white. And if I had a wish, a professional wish, it would be that everybody in this audience come out to one concert of the Akron Symphony, and I dare you to not want to come back. Because, don't get me wrong, these guys will play the hell out of some classical music, but that's not all it is. Tomorrow night, for example, we have a clinical psychiatrist who, oh, by the way, happens to be a classical pianist, who is coming out to perform with the Akron Symphony and give a performance and lecture about creative genius. Coming up, we have a 200-voice gospel choir that is joining with the orchestra for Gospel Meets Symphony, which is in its 23rd year here in Akron. We have a fully staged production of Carmina Burana coming up. I swear you will recognize it. It's basically every battle scene in any movie anywhere. That is going to have a brand new dance composition that is choreographed specifically for this performance. Carmina Burana is not something that is usually danced to, so this is brand new just for Akron. And speaking of things that have never been done before, we have a world premiere of a symphony coming up on April 16th, in which hundreds of your fellow community members recorded and submitted sounds from their everyday life via a cell phone app, and a local composer has gathered those and is compiling them into a brand new symphony. And that is just what's left in this season, people. I wish I could tell you about next season, because seriously, this is going to go down as the most collaborative season of an orchestra ever, but I can't tell you yet. So I really want you to come out to just one concert, give it a try. I am at every single concert. Come find me. You can wear jeans, you can clap in all the wrong places, we don't care. Come find me, say hi, and tell me what you thought. But enough about why Akron Symphony is awesome. Let's talk about Velcro. I would like to introduce Emily Kennedy today. She is a Biomimicry Fellow in the Integrated Bioscience PhD program at the University of Akron. What is biomimicry, you might ask? It is innovation through emulation of biological forms, processes, patterns, and systems. So for example, Velcro, a non-toxic adhesive, which is inspired by how birds stick to animal fur. And she's going to focus today on looking to nature for functional and practical design. So let's welcome Emily. So nature has fascinated me since before I could even walk. My dad had this baby carrier that he put me in and strapped to his back before hiking in the woods. And I'd sit in that thing just wide-eyed and slack-jawed, in total awe of my surroundings. The birch trees, the chickadees, the crickets. When I was older, we started going on camping trips to New Hampshire's White Mountains. And I remember the drives up with my sisters. We were wiggling with excitement, talking about how we were gonna hunt mushrooms and try to catch tadpoles in the glassy streams and stay up all night and try to see a shooting star in the night sky. And a lot has changed since then, but some things remain the same. Here I am again. I'm camping with University of Akron friends just this past August. The thing is, outdoor adventures aren't just a hobby for me anymore. Seeking inspiration from nature is now my job. And that's because I study biomimicry. What did she say? Biomimicry. It's sustainable innovation through emulation of biological systems. And it's based on the idea that evolution has been vetting strategies for billions of years, and natural selection tends to favor high-performance, resource-efficient strategies. So like you guys heard, one famous example of biomimicry is Velcro. It was inspired by how birds stick to animal fur, and it's a non-toxic adhesive system. So the University of Akron, in partnership with Great Lakes Biomimicry, is offering first-of-its-kind graduate-level training in this emergent field. And the students in this program are all sponsored by local companies and helping them to develop disruptive technologies inspired by nature. So you can see up on this slide some of the companies that are currently sponsoring biomimicry students. And these students are doing really, really exciting work. For example, Daphne is studying the UV reflective properties of eggshells, and her work is inspiring the development of industrial materials that don't degrade in sunlight, and building envelopes that reflect incident light, keeping occupants cool so that you can slash the air conditioning costs. Bill, another one of the students, is studying structural color in spiders. Now, structural color is color that's created by nanostructures. Light reflects off of them such that certain wavelengths are amplified. And you don't need these toxic dyes or chemicals. So his research is inspiring the development of vibrant, non-fading paints. And then we have Sebastian, who's studying selectively permeable cell membranes. Cells have channels that allow water but not salt to pass. So he's looking at those principles to create novel ways of wastewater desalination to increase access to potable water. I actually work with Akron-based Gojo. You guys probably know them best as the makers of Purell Advanced Instant Hand Sanitizer, but they're a company that's dedicated to skin health and hygiene solutions. And I'm actually working with them to make their soap and sanitizer dispensers more energy efficient by asking, how do biological systems move fluids? So we've looked at a variety of different models. Things we've been inspired by include how squid propel through the water, or how trees are able to move water and dissolve nutrients against gravity from roots to leaves using just pressure gradients, or how skunks spray their aromatic compounds, to put it politely. We also looked at the heart, which is a multi-chambered circulatory pump, and the heart has elastic rather than rigid walls, which allows it to pump blood to our extremities. So these walls expand to accommodate blood and then contract, pushing that blood onward through the vasculature. So this is a Gojo patented pump that was actually inspired by the heart. So it also has 2 chambers, and their chambers are separated by a common wall with fluid inlet and outlet passages, so that the energy from one chamber recovering can actually be used to compress the other chamber. And this particular concept is projecting somewhere between 50 and 80% energy savings. And that can mean significant cost savings to Gojo because the batteries are the heaviest component of the dispenser. So if you can reduce battery power requirements, you reduce the weight of the dispenser tremendously, and then they don't have to pay as much for transportation. So seeing the way that biomimicry has galvanized sustainable innovation at Gojo and other sponsors of the University of Akron program has really been eye-opening. Because I think when people hear sustainability, they tend to think of sacrifice. They hear it and they think about, maybe cutting carbon emissions, saving water, but I don't believe that sustainability is about stifling productivity or repressing our impulse to build. I think what it's about is rendering our artifacts consistent with life on Earth over the long haul. And I truly believe that biomimicry is one path forward in that regard. So the future is really in our hands now. We have the chance to rewrite the human narrative starting right here in Northeast Ohio. Our region has been villainized in the past for polluting our rivers so badly that it caught fire. But our past need not define our future. With the leadership of the University of Akron and Great Lakes Biomimicry, our region is poised to become a Silicon Valley-like epicenter of nature-inspired innovation. And the important thing about this is that you don't have to be a PhD or even be a scientist to join this movement. All you need is a healthy curiosity about the natural world. So this guy, this caterpillar, he actually lives just a few miles down the road in Seberling Nature Realm. And I encourage you to ask, what are his secrets? What might we learn from his seemingly ordinary caterpillar life? The answers are truly all around us, and it's just a matter of looking. I think that Darwin hit the nail on the head when he said that there is a grandeur in this view of life. From so simple a beginning, endless forms most beautiful and most wonderful have been and are being evolved. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Emily. It's wonderful to see all these things that are happening right here in Akron, not just in the arts, but how much we're innovating across the board. So let's go ahead and give her another hand. And if you guys don't already know me, my name is Britt Cherrick. I'm with Crafty Mart. If you're not familiar with Crafty Mart, I heard that. That was good. That was good. Crafty Mart's a nonprofit organization. We organize handmade markets in the area. Our next one is tomorrow, actually. So if you've never heard of it, you should come check it out. It's going to be a Summit Art Space on the 3rd floor, right in the middle of the Akron Art Walk. So it's also a great opportunity to check that out. So that goes from 5 to 10 p.m. tomorrow. But we pride ourselves on not just providing Akronites with a place to shop locally and shop from our handmade artists here, but we also pride ourselves as being an incubator for small creative businesses who might be interested in taking their arts businesses to the next level. So we're so glad to be able to partner with PechaKucha, and we're excited to be able to help with all these events. That said, our next speaker is a very accomplished author, in several forms actually. She's a playwright, a theorist, a poet, and in addition to giving us a sneak peek into her forthcoming collection of poetry, titled Jeff Bridges. Yes, there's going to be a collection of poetry out there inspired exclusively by Jeff Bridges. Only in Akron would this happen. So I'd like to welcome Mrs. Donora Hillard-Hare, who will be speaking about the Keep Akron Weird movement, which of course begs the question, is weird enough?
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Britt. And I really especially like going third because I got to hear what Emily said, what Jasen said, and especially with what Emily said regarding not being married to our past and what Jasen said with the art belt. And you're going to hear some similarity with what I said. And then my talk is indeed on poetry, Akron, and weirdness. And thank you again to the crew for inviting me to do this.
So I moved to Northeast Ohio in late 2013. Here I am with my husband, who will actually be up here speaking shortly. And this picture was taken the night we got engaged. Look at how cute and fresh-faced we were. But I can honestly say that then I knew absolutely nothing. Now, I had moved here from Detroit, which you can see displayed on some of its beautiful destruction. And I had lived there for 5 years while working on my doctoral coursework. And one thing I had not been prepared for were the differences in context between these two cities. You see, Akron struck me, and still strikes me, as having a high context culture. Akron having a high context culture from an anthropological standpoint is one that takes care of its own and caters to in-groups, an in-group being one that has similar experiences and expectations from which inferences and influences are drawn. And I also started to notice things such as the Keep Akron Weird slogan and movement. I began to notice weirdness as a particular type of hometown pride, endemic to the place where I began to proudly teach at the university and go to the symphony in footy pajamas. Yes, I actually did that. You can check my Instagram for pictures. But we didn't invent this weirdness, as you can see here. It appears we got the slogan from Portland, and sometimes Akron wants to emulate Portland. I learned that at a recent Gaines meeting. But Portland started to keep that slogan in 2003 as a way to support local businesses and business owners, but they themselves got that from Austin, as you can see. And they originated that in 2000 as a way to begin creative resistance in that city. So this is my thesis. Hometown pride is beautiful, and I was born in a mountain town where my great uncles had names like Bucket, so weirdness is beautiful too. But when do these things keep us from reaching our potential? Okay, so here you can see the Akron gods, so to speak, including the snowman. But please correct me if I'm wrong, but none of these people or snowmen are in this room. And I want the people in this room to be the next great makers of Akron. So how do we do that? So when I think of greatness, I think of Jeff Bridges. And you might know him best, as many do, from The Big Lebowski, and it's that film he's pictured from here. But he's been acting since the 50s and was first nominated from the Academy in the 70s. And Jeff Bridges will not just be one thing. He's also an accomplished artist and photographer as well as musician, and I've called him the muse of the age. And it's with that spirit that I wrote my poetry collection, Jeff Bridges, which will be published this year by Cobalt Press, and I have one of the poems for you now. It's called Jeff Bridges. You go on a water fast because you hate yourself, and Jeff Bridges laughs. Baby sister, he says, why? Remember me in Fearless? My hair was so long, and I wasn't afraid of any strawberry. I stuck my head out the window like a beagle. I yelled at God, you want to kill me, but you can't. So let it go. Let's drive our Volvo into a brick wall to make Rosie Perez feel better. Let's buy presents for the dead. To me, Jeff Bridges' particular sort of Zen is inspiring in its not being, because not being is the essence of Zen, and that we're not attached to our identity, and it allows all the messages of the universe to come in and be heard. When we're not attached to our identity, creation can happen. So what does that mean for the future of Akron? As you can see, Mayor Horgan said very recently on the release of the task force report on Akron that we are not here to protect the status quo, which I find invigorating. And thank you to Kyle Kudichief from the Knight Foundation for the source material. I also have another quote here that states, we used to have 290,000 people, we're at 199,000 today. I am convinced that we can grow again. Those of us that already live here know that Akron is a great place to live. Our challenge is to attract new residents to our city. We do this by making a great place even better, by building new housing, by rehabilitating existing buildings, by encouraging entrepreneurship and commercial redevelopment, and by using artistry and urban design to create irresistible places for people to live, work, and play. And thank you to Jasen Sokol from the city of Akron for the source material.
So Jasen mentions entrepreneurship, and one example I want to draw your attention to is Monastum. They launched in 2015 as a fashion and design studio based here, but they seek to reach both domestic and international customers. They also embrace the principle of reductionism, which is considered an outsider aesthetic to this region. And this focus on an outsider aesthetic brings me to my conclusion. So as mentioned, having pride in where you come from can be beautiful, but it also takes courage to become yourself and not rest on what your past has dictated. Akron needs outside agitators, and here I'll cite Kierkegaard, who gave us another way to work out our own salvation. He writes, "When one person sees one thing and another sees something else in the same thing, then the one discovers what the other conceals." And when we leave here tonight and for the rest of our lives, let's challenge each other to always be adventurous and curious and receptive. So I'm going to let my time run out with a final quote from Kierkegaard and pay close attention to the final line. Having thus imbibed all the love and absorbed himself in it, he does not lack the courage to attempt and risk everything. Thank you.
All right, we've been issued some challenges here tonight, folks. I hope you're keeping track because I'm writing them down and you're all getting an email from me later. I'm not joking. I really think that this has been a truly spectacular evening so far. Let's give all of our speakers a round of applause. It is not an easy thing to get up in front of such a spectacular venue and so many faces, friendly as you might be, and we're really, really grateful and appreciative that you all gave your time tonight to be here with us, so thank you very much. I have the pleasure of introducing not one but two guests to the podium next, but I think only one is speaking. Is that true? Thank God. All right. Geeg is going to join us here today. Geeg Wiles is a cross between a whitewater raft guide, a university biology lab instructor, and a motivational speaker. Over the past 14 years, he has shared his travels with a lawn gnome named Captain Ahab. No, really. That's what he's going to talk about today. His lawn gnome named Captain Ahab. Geeg will be sharing the story of Ahab's Adventures, which is a visually written story of Captain Ahab, a 3-foot-tall, 40-pound, bright yellow wooden fisherman, aspiring wannabe pirate captain who helps people achieve goals and commandeer their own life. I think that deserves a big round of applause for Geeg.
Ahoy, my name's, oh boy, this is going to be a good one, I can tell. Ahoy, my name's Geeg Wiles, and I'm here to talk about him. This is Captain Ahab. He's a 3-foot-tall, 40-pound, bright yellow wooden fisherman / wannabe pirate captain, hence the Jolly Roger. He has gone from common law ornament to motivational traveler, and believe it or not, it all started with my grandfather. The first memory I have of my grandfather, that's us at the Grand Canyon. First memory I have of my grandfather is shared with this statue. Actually, almost every memory of my grandfather is shared with this statue. We made a unique pair between my grandparent and myself, seeing that all our memories were shared with this statue. I was the kid, that's us at Upper Falls in Yellowstone. I was the kid in school with the crazy grandfather that everybody knew about, which made for a pretty embarrassing first 10 years of my life. My birthday, July 18th, which is on my favorite day of the year, but not because it's my date of birth. My grandfather always threw a huge hoot nanny. It's a buddy he made at a Dew Tour in Vermont. He always threw a huge hoot nanny on July 18th since before I was born. So growing up, I always thought all of his friends, which were his naval war buddies, came to celebrate my birthday, or really it was to celebrate when they found their captain, Ahab. That's us getting tattoos together. By found Captain Ahab, I mean commandeered, of course. It was a common naval prank back in the day to get quite inebriated before you left on your lengthy tour and commandeer a lawn ornament. So when they had him as a stowaway on the ship, they would take pictures, write letters home, plaster it with cargo stickers. That's my grandfather, the one in the upper right. Plaster it with cargo stickers, and then when they returned from their tour, they would have a scrapbook of his travels, like, hey, Mom and Dad, I joined the Navy, and they'd leave it at the door and leave the long run behind. But obviously he kept this one, and I found out recently that it was because they got so inebriated they couldn't figure out where to put him back. So, anyways, that's us skydiving. After the hootenanny died out, they'd play a high-stakes card game, him and his old war buddies. They'd all throw in about $1,000, and whoever won the game picked a destination instead of winning the pot. That's us in Bryce Canyon. And before I woke up the next morning, they'd be gone on an adventure. I said I was embarrassed about my crazy grandfather and his friends until my 10th birthday, because that was the birthday I stumbled down the stairs and realized that they were playing this game. They let me sit in and listen and watch to the decades of stories about this statue. That's us on Alcatraz. We got locked up for a little bit. I got to sit in on the stories of Captain Ahab and all his adventures with my grandfather. And in trade, they found a little kid to get beers out of the fridge for them. By my 19th birthday, I had a core group of friends. That's us at the Red Bull Flute Dog. I had a core group of friends that would play the same card game with me. We wouldn't play for anything of monetary value. We just played to listen to the stories over and over again. The more we heard them, the more you'd feel like you were a part of them. What changed on my 19th birthday was I came downstairs to clean up after them the next morning. That's the world's largest ball of twine. Came downstairs the next morning to find that my grandfather and his friends were still sitting there. When I walked over to the table before I could ask, they handed me an envelope and said, "You and Ahab share a special date in our lives, so take this envelope of our weddings, wake up your friends, get in the car, and just drive." That's us doing the Boston Urban Iditarod. That was last April. So for the last 14 years, we've done just that. Ahab's Adventures has grown into showing that if this 3-foot-tall, 40-pound, bright yellow wooden fisherman / wannabe pirate captain can do these things, then you have no excuse not to. He's great at weddings. Oh boy. It has given me the excuses that I've needed to do just that. I never thought I would travel the world or talk in front of a group of people like this, especially about someone like him. I do know I'm not going to pass on my grandfather's most prized possession anytime soon, but I wanted to turn it into something for more than just me. Looking back, one would not believe that Ahab's Adventures was like, that's us kissing the Blarney Stone. Looking back, one would not believe that Ahab's Adventures was laying the foundation, that's us zip lining, laying the foundations for something bigger, from the cross-country trips to the traveling overseas, from the national parks to jumping out of planes, from the tales around the campfire to talks like this one. Everyone connected to Ahab's Adventures as a friend. That's us. That's him flying first class. I haven't flown first class yet. Yeah. Tales around the campfire, talks like this one. Everyone connected to Ahab as a fan, friend, or business helps Ahab's Adventures evolve. They become a part of the unique ongoing story. And honestly, that's my favorite part. That's us whitewater rafting. We never know when we'll meet the next person that helps Ahab's Adventures evolve, but we look forward to every friend that becomes, every stranger that becomes our friend and a fan of Captain Ahab, because it was stories from a once group of strangers that started this journey, so why not let our story be the start of yours? So usually I leave a bit of time at the end so I can take a video of everybody that came to the talk, if you don't mind. There's permission slips later. Pretend like you enjoyed it. So that's everyone who's been so far. Thank you again.
You guys, I want a lawn comb.
Next up, and our last speaker before break, we have Rick Stockburger. And I think a lot of us know Rick as the Executive Director of Launch League, an evangelist of digital products for AWH, Director of Business Development at OSC Tech Lab, and Government Affairs Consultant at Coal Company LPA. Is there anything he doesn't do? Rick is also a former United States Army infantryman. He's a problem solver and community creator that truly believes Akron's best years are in her near future. He's going to talk to us today about the idea of risk, and more importantly, how it can push us to greatness and not pull us towards mediocrity, as we all fear it will. Let's welcome Rick.
Hey guys, I'm gonna start my timer. Oh, it turned off. I like that you guys are laughing. Hey, thank Roger Riddle for teaching me how to do this. That's the first thing we gotta do. All right, we're going. I'm not gonna BS you. Starting a company is hard. So what is risk? Mr. Webster said that it's a noun that defines you as exposure to the chance of injury or loss, a hazard or dangerous chance. It sounds pretty bad, right? Why would we ever do that? Exposure to the chance of injury, danger, hazard? We've been conditioned to think that risk is not a good thing. And I'm here to tell you that simply is not true. The problem that we have with risk is that we either think that it's too scary, or we've romanticized it so much that it's only for action heroes and entrepreneurs and these big, bold people that walk on the shoulders of giants. It's easy to look at a problem and say, I can't do that, and move on. But that's not really who we are, is it? Let me tell you about who I am. Pretty normal family, despite what Chris Horn is mumbling right now. And that big guy there is my dad. When I was a junior in high school, he lost his job after working in a steel foundry for 28 years and didn't get his full retirement. My dad was a steel man. That's what defined him. The smell of molten steel was the cologne I knew him by in those days, and when I smell it now, it still brings back those memories. So my dad took what a lot of people consider the safe route, working for a company for your entire life, because of the security a large corporation can provide to your family. But it didn't work out that way, did it? And it hasn't for a lot of our parents. We saw that as a generation, and that's why we wanted to build our own path. However, the worst thing that can happen to you scenario ended up with this guy, smiling, having the time of his life doing his favorite things. That picture brings me a lot of joy. The smell of the steel always preceded my dad when he came home from work, and when he finally mustered the strength to get into the house, he collapsed in a heap in his recliner, exhausted from the extreme heat that the foundry punished him with every day. We all feel like that from time to time. But when we don't stake a claim for our future, somebody else will, and that future will claim us. So like any rationally thinking kid out of high school wanting to seize my own future, I joined the Army, because 18. Which was personally one of the best decisions I ever made. The Army taught me a lot about myself and the world, and about the different type of people that are in it. Most importantly, it taught me about real risk, danger, and how to mitigate it. It also taught me how to suck. You see, in life, there are going to be really hard times. No matter what your profession, sometimes you just have to embrace the suck. Let it overcome you and realize that you are going through it at the moment is not the end of the world. It is not dangerous. It's not really what risk is. When you look around, it is the people who are next to you that make taking a chance worth it. One of the most important points of my talk is happening right now. Do not wait to get shot at to realize that taking a chance on starting your own business isn't a risk. It's improving your chance to be your own hero. I joined the infantry to save lives. Kind of counterintuitive now that I think about it. But what that experience gave me was perspective. When I was getting out of the Army, I was on a plane and heard about this kid in Detroit who had his foot amputated due to exposure. This was happening in Kosovo and Afghanistan when I was there, but I just couldn't fathom it happening at home, where my father built steel, in the foundry that built the free world. I had to stop helping other countries and do everything I could to put an oxygen mask on back home. So in case you were worried, our team actually solved Rust Belt brain drain back in 2010. This is where you're supposed to laugh, so. I co-founded a media company focused on urban revitalization with another guy, and we bought into each other's crazy. Lesson number 2, find someone that buys into your crazy, because it's not any fun to try to change the world alone. Now this guy, A, Milne, and my mom probably had the most influence on who I am as a person. So we're talking about risk. I want you to do something for me that might sound weird, but Mr. Rogers did it first. And it did it for a very good reason. I want you to think really hard about the people that would support you no matter what, the people that you love and the people that love you. Close your eyes quietly for 10 seconds. I'll keep the time. Y'all's smiles are amazing right now. Look at you guys. Look left and right. And if you couldn't think of anyone, there's my email, or there was my email, so you know me, I'll be your friend. So we had this support network fresh in our mind. Now I ask, why is Akron the place to take the danger out of what you think risk is and turn it into opportunity to grow? My organization, Launchly, came together with some truly talented individuals like Ken Burns of Tiny Circuits, Nick Petrosky of OSC Tech Lab, and Otto Vias of the Seed Clinic to pen Akron's Declaration of Innovation. I'll recite it now. We believe in Akron. The city is built upon a foundation of invention, ingenuity, and risk-taking. Our ancestors took the risk to dig a canal from Lake Erie to the Ohio River, giving birth to our city. We grew quickly and embraced innovation and new ideas that led to massive growth from the rubber industry that ushered in the modern age. But the old industries that fueled this region's growth in the early 20th century have faded. Buildings closed up and decayed. People moved away. Our region is known as the Rust Belt. But we wear this name with pride, because under that superficial layer of rust is a solid core that does not decay. Those who remained were forced to work harder, face struggle, and overcome challenges, and we are all stronger for it. We are returning to our roots, learning to embrace the lessons of the past, that we need to invent more, adapt more, and take more risks. By doing so, we are scraping away the rust to reveal what those who stayed have always known, that Akron truly is the best place to live. We are Launchly, a community of entrepreneurs, founders, and interested individuals creating a grassroots network of startup support in Akron. We believe that encouraging and supporting scalable startups offers us the best way to grow our city and create new economic opportunities in Akron. Akron is our home, our passion, and our future. It's awesome stuff that's happening back there. That's some of the amazing things that are happening in Akron. So if you guys went to the website, go to the website, bring out your phones, sign that pledge that's there. But I'm going to read that pledge, and if you guys do believe in Akron and you believe in this, please recite it with me. We are the doers, the founders, the investors, and interested citizens who endorse the principles in this document and take the responsibility to support a community of startups in Akron. There are people out there embracing risk every day. People like Tessa Reeves of Neighbors Apparel, Kaylee Foster of Urban Buzz. People like Audrey Wallace and Amy Houston of Comay, and Courtney Gross of Design Flux. It's important to note I've named all female entrepreneurs because they are the future of entrepreneurship. These people are a beacon of awesomeness who will not accept mediocrity and are building a bigger and better Akron. Like these folks, don't wait to get shot at to realize that you too can be great.
Thank you, Nicole, for that great introduction. Appreciate that. Nicole said to me, we're going to let you have a few minutes to talk about the history of the theater. And then tonight, just now, she said, well, you're going to be at the end of the first act. So that was great. So after 5 great speeches, I get to come up here. And I'm the only thing standing between everybody getting a drink. So thank you very much for the timing, as well as the great introduction, Nicole. I appreciate that. So the Civic Theater, who here has just never been in the theater before? A few of you, great. Welcome to the Civic. We're thrilled to have you guys here tonight. Very briefly, the theater was built, it opened in 1929. It was originally the Akron Lowe's. It was a for-profit movie and vaudeville house. At the time, it was about 3,000 seats. We're about 2,500 seats now. The theater is designed as an atmospheric theater, which is to say that you're supposed to feel like you're outside while you're inside. For those of you that are out in the house itself, you can look up in the ceiling, you'll see the stars and the clouds. The stars you're seeing over your head are the actual constellation pattern from April 20th, 1929, over someplace in Austria where John Everson, who was the architect, lived. So that you can see the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper. It's like actually a sky. Which a lot of people don't know. The theater operated as a for-profit movie house and vaudeville house until about 1965, when the Akron JCs spearheaded an effort to buy the theater and it became a 501c3 nonprofit. and the theater has operated since 1965 as a nonprofit. There's been many sort of different types of operation here, different kind of programming over the years. Most recently in 2000 through 2001, 2002, we closed the theater for 18 months and did about a $20 million restoration and expansion that expanded the stage and added a wing on the north side that added bathrooms and lobby space. We are continuing to do work on that. We're going to do about $800,000 worth of work in the next year through some funding through the state. So we'll be working towards getting us all the way out to Main Street. And by the time we finish the entire restoration, hopefully these buildings that you saw in one of the presentations will have been rehabbed and we'll have an outstanding block here in the center of downtown Akron. Today the theater has, is there around, I think I heard a clap. Somebody clap. Personally, I think we should never stop talking about renovating those buildings from between now and whenever it gets done. Today we do about 180 events a year. Last Saturday night we had Lewis Black standing on the stage to a sold-out house, and I can tell you that the folks in 1929 from the Lowe's Corporation probably did not envision this as a use of the theater, but it is exactly what our current board and we envision for the use of the theater. So thank you very much. Enjoy a drink.
So I want to go ahead and introduce our next presenter. She sounds like she has the best job in the entire world. Her and her colleagues deploy foundation dollars to advance education, the arts, and economic opportunity in Akron. So Christine Meyer of the GAR Foundation will be speaking about a subject that is actually very close to me personally, as I know it's affected thousands in the greater Akron area and changed the way that they've looked at the world as well. So her presentation is entitled, Try This Operating System, and is inspired by her daughter Elizabeth, who has autism.
So the name of my presentation is Try This Operating System. A few of my work colleagues are here and they know that I'm not talking about a computer operating system because I have very little to say on subjects like that. I'm talking about one of nature's operating systems that we all have, and that is our senses and how they help us access the world. So I'll take you back to like kindergarten or first grade when you probably saw something like this in a classroom. You learned we have 5 senses. And everybody has these senses, and they're sort of your gateway to the world. They're how we access other people and nature. When you think about it, without any senses, we are just sort of freestanding units without connections. But what if something goes wrong? So maybe you haven't really thought much more about your senses since that time, because like any good operating system, if it's working well, it's invisible. It's in the background, you never think about it. If something goes wrong, you might start thinking about it. What if you had senses that worked well? All 5 of your senses, mechanics are good, the hardware is right. You go to any doctor and they tell you this is fine, you have functioning senses. But they're not synchronized with one another across time properly. What if you have limited ability to regulate your senses, to regulate the intensity of your experience of the senses? Meet Elizabeth Grace Mayer. She is 13 years old, she's my daughter, and she's a lovely kid. She happens to have autism. I have many reasons to believe that Elizabeth has some of those sensory problems I just mentioned a minute ago. So I'm going to talk about Elizabeth, I'm going to talk about her senses. I'm not going to talk about everyone with autism, I'm not going to talk about everything that has to do with autism. This is a pretty narrow comment. So first, sight. Her visual memory is actually extraordinary. If you play the memory game against her, you should prepare to be crushed. That's what you're seeing in this picture. She's administering a beat down to me playing the memory game. Because once she sees something, she never loses where she saw it and what it was. She's also great at puzzles. This puzzle of a tiger reminds me of when she was a little tiny kid and she solved a tiger puzzle. And I said to her, "What's in there?" And she said, "It's a puzzle." And I said, "No, what's in there?" pointing to the picture. And she said, "Pieces." that makes me think that her vision maybe focuses more on the component pieces than it does on the whole. I've seen her solve a puzzle with the image face down on the floor, just looking at the shapes and matching up those pieces of cardboard. Oh, we're already with sound. Hearing. Funny how that happens. She likes music. She loves music. She loves Taylor Swift. She loves that album of Taylor Swift. If anybody needs to know anything about any song on that album, I'm your source for that. She could listen to it all day long. She seems very comforted by the repetition of music. That said, when you hear from high-functioning people on the spectrum, they will tell you they have very limited ability to regulate the intensity of different sounds. So the sound of the speaker's voice might be as loud as the sound of the heater that's humming, might be as loud as the sound of a car going by, it might be as loud as the humming fluorescent lights. They also will tell you that the audio and visual don't always sync, so hence the picture of Godzilla, circa 1964. I think this happens for Elizabeth because when she's listening really intently, she does not want to look at the person who's speaking. And I think it's because it's very disorienting for her when the mouth does not match up with the sound. Sense of smell, she is a champion sniffer. It's a little bit like having an animal for a child sometimes, because I'll see her and she'll run up and just give me a huge, like a big whiff. I think it's an uncomplicated way for her to experience the world, and she sort of marks people by scent. It's also possible that I just smell really good. Sense of taste. If I could get sort of an off-brand food past her sense of smell, which is a big if, I think she would immediately detect that it's not her thing and she would reject it. She has a very fine sense of taste, and she eats like 8 things. I think this is one of her ways, is not uncommon with people on the spectrum, to have limited tastes, and I think it's one way where she can say, I'm going to limit some of my sensory input on this one. Sense of touch. So I believe that Elizabeth does not always or often know where she is in space. That's why she loves water so much. It's like a giant "You Are Here" sign. It exerts pressure on her from all directions, and she really could stay in there, pretty much always. That's not Elizabeth, nor is it my dog, but that is kind of a thing. A lot of people with autism have service dogs that are trained to lie on top of them. Again, giving them the sensory input of, you are here, this is your space. That's a chair. More specifically, it's a broken chair, and there's another one behind it that's also a broken chair. Those are in my dining room. Elizabeth does not have a great sense of the force with which she moves through space. So she breaks my chairs all the time. My dad keeps fixing them, she keeps breaking them. She's not doing it intentionally. She might touch a cat with the same force that someone else would open a jar, and it's just a regulation thing. So is this child doomed to a life of misery? She is not. Though she is in a hammock swing, which is one of her favorite places because, again, gravity kind of tells her where she is in space. She's a happy kid, and there's much that's good about her life. Is she going to have deep philosophical discussions with me about the meaning of life anytime soon? Probably not. And I think it's because the vast amount of her energy is exerted on processing this crazy amount of sensory information that's coming at her at all times. Is parenting a very steep curve with a kid like Elizabeth? It most certainly is. I realized from Elizabeth that I come at parenting her, as I do with my other 2 kids, with a whole lot of assumptions that their experience of the world is like my experience of the world. So she has shown me, A, I am making an assumption, and B, it's incorrect. And lastly, can everyone in this room view the world with slightly different eyes as this group, my family, has? Understanding that A, you have an operating system, and B, others around you may have a very different one. I sure hope so.
Thank you, Christine. I have the pleasure of introducing Curtis Hare from the Nightlight. How many of you have been to the Nightlight? Excellent. Since we are a night of challenges, I would encourage all of you to get there in the next month if you've not already been there. Curtis Hare is an executive director and co-founder of the Nightlight Cinema, a movie theater dedicated to advancing cinema and community in tandem. His talk is going to explore tactics for overcoming the obstacles that would dissolve cinema culture and the role of moving images play in shaping our collective future. He is proud to say, oh my Lord, Curtis, is this true? He is proud to say that he saw 145 movies in theaters in 2015, and that, yes, one of them was the new Star Wars. Curtis Hare.
Thanks, Nicole. So this is the story of cinema, and as such, it's not just my story. In January of 2015, a critic for RogerEbert.com began a journal of the movies she saw as her father was dying. My father taught me how to watch movies, how to love them, she said. I'm not ready to lose my father. There we go. I think about scars, the critic mused, after seeing Mad Max Fury Road. Most of the characters are covered in them. I think about the green places that we want to run away to, and what happens when we learn that there are no truly safe places. How we have to decide if we'll keep running or go back and build with what we have the best we can. Meanwhile, in January of 2015, the Nightlight Cinema was doing its best business since having opened 6 months before. Oscar season is always busy because you can't turn on the radio or TV without hearing about the awards. I wrote a popular note in our email newsletter about why the Oscars matter even when they don't. Now, a couple years before, I had begun reading a book by Alain Badiou, pictured here, an old-school French analytic philosopher who's about as lovable as communists come. It was called On Cinema, and it talked about the way that cinema is a form of thinking, or more precisely, a form that thinks. Images and sounds come together to generate ideas, sometimes unaware of their own thought processes. Now, in September of 2014, only 2 months after we opened, I brought an incredible film to the Nightlight called A Spell to Ward Out the Darkness. It was not an Academy Award-nominated film, but it was the first film the Nightlight showed to inspire walkouts. Now, this is a vast reduction, but the huggable communist claimed that cinema could change the world because of what it can do with time, the way it can stretch infinities into moments and vice versa. Now, cinema's infinities are seen and heard and felt, and in a way that doesn't get along very well with the lifeless notions that philosophy has generated, the lifeless and tangible notions. Now, by October of 2015, the critic's father had passed away. Watching Guillermo del Toro's incredibly vivid Gothic romance, Crimson Peak, she wrote, Mia Wasikowska's Edith has to thwart a plot against her life. It's her ability to arrange the pieces into a coherent narrative that enables her to escape from the decaying memory palace that confines her. Now, this is how memory works, especially in late winter. The cohesive story we tell ourselves falls away, and all that remains is an image here, a remembered word there. In the same breath, she adds, we forget what the address of the old apartment was, but we remember he loved the orange kind of mulatto cookies best. The critic was knocked for a loop by how much Crimson Peak was about fathers and daughters. Edith ends the film with a gash across her cheek. She'll have a scar for the rest of her life, but she'll be alive to let it heal. If we take the closing image at face value, Edith turns her harrowing experiences into her first published novel. For Badiou, there are 4 modes capable of producing truth: art, science, love, and politics. The interplay between them is not a harmonious one. It's one of wounds, conceptions that are gnawed at and indented as an outcome of their proximity and character. What's unique to cinema, as it mixes ideas from these modes, is the way it serves us bite-sized morsels of sensible infinity. In tasting it, we are confronted directly by art's only impossibility that a sensible infinity is something to be mastered. But what does that mean? It means that new routes are likelier to arise on the human highway when our maps begin to include this immovable waypoint of death at its center. Make no mistake, we're destined to circle it, but in denying its existence, we arrive at each port of call shocked to discover the same violent port that we left from. Now, in film theory, there's a mental phenomenon called the Kuleshov effect, by which viewers derive more meaning from the interaction of 2 sequential shots than from a single shot in isolation. Change the image in between these 2 frames of Alfred Hitchcock's face, and you start to get a different idea about what he's thinking. Now, imagine that you hadn't seen the first 2 frames. Take the 3rd frame in isolation and answer, what is Hitchcock thinking? In this simple way, you're generating possible futures from the same set of initial conditions. Reality, like the cinematic image, has a composition, a grain, a tone, but the way we choose to read it is also how we posture ourselves for the future. This is what cinema teaches us. There is only one inevitability, and radical breaks from the momentum of the present instant are possible in every reading of now. These are the conditions of emancipation that set aside what is and even what is likely to be in favor of what can be. Hollis Frampton was a native of Worcester, Ohio, and a legendary experimental filmmaker. He imagined that these possibilities were part of what he called the infinite cinema. His idea was that all cameras, projectors, and frames were part of an enormous singular machine whose reels extend beyond the horizons of finitude. Now, a still photograph is simply an isolated frame taken out of the infinite cinema. In it, there are endless compositions and endless cuts, some where frames break radically from their predecessors, and some where continuity is unwittingly and tragically preserved. Akron, too, has its possibilities, as does the nightlight, and the films we show will continue to remind us of what those possibilities might be. We will provoke ourselves into dreaming new things with the full force of the world's imagination. I'll know I've failed if there are no more walkouts. Now, by December of 2015, the critic found herself watching Star Wars despite having stopped trusting the franchise after the prequels. The Force Awakens was not at all what I was expecting, she explains. I didn't anticipate that it would be so much about what happens when we are left behind and how we make sense of the wreckage and make it through. It was at this point that she had an epiphany about movies. I've been watching them with my father's eyes this whole time, she wrote. And that's just it. Through cinema, my senses become our senses. Your story becomes my story. And then we can become more sensitive to the possibility of a better future. Thank you.
Next up, I have the pleasure of introducing Beth Vild. Beth is a local permaculture and health equity community organizer, and she's currently involved in just about everything in Akron, as far as I can tell, including but not limited to the North Hill Open Fresh Market, Gaines, Big Love, and Akron City Repair Project. She's going to be talking tonight on the concepts of neighborhood design and what design patterns lead to healthy or unhealthy neighborhoods. Why is neighborhood design important to people's daily lives and to larger issues of social justice? How can neighborhood design change the power a neighborhood feels in their ability to change and guide their own lives? Let's find out. Beth Vild.
So I'm involved with this group called Big Love, and I hope that you know that we started that organization out of a love of the community, of the city of Akron. So this comes out of a place of reflective solutions as we look at the fact that we are environmental creatures that have experienced great atrocity in urban design in the United States. In 1939, homeowners loan corporations created a map for Akron called Akron's Residential Security Map, where the red line areas were considered unsafe and unsuitable, boxing poor people into their neighborhoods with little hope of receiving any sort of loan to revitalize those neighborhoods. Those areas were oftentimes heavily polluted by the rubber industry. Ghettos were defined and started in Italy and grew quickly throughout fascist Europe. There was a quarter in a city where the Jews were restricted and was the beginning of Hitler's death camps. In 1908, slum areas in the United States became referred to as ghettos and were continued to be defined as a place where certain peoples of race and class were put in a city. In 1920s to 1940s, our city tripled in size because of the rubber recruitment that happened of African Americans in the South, where the Great Migration North dubbed Akron the capital of Alabama. During this time also, the KKK was a prominent force within our city. This is in part because before 1910, the area was predominantly WASP, German, and Irish. Between 1910 to 1920, there was a huge influx of Eastern Europeans, Mediterraneans, and Appalachians that were judged for their Catholicism and Jewish attributes and were similarly ghettoized. In the 1960s, decisions to continue to separate amongst class and race decided in the building of the Inner Belt right through the historic Black Jazz District. This has left a scar in our community of the institutionalized hatred and fear. That same fear of the stranger is what led to the white flight of the 1960s, which helped people get in and out of downtown quickly with little care for revenue for the city. It grew our city's footprint, but kept racialized barriers intact within neighborhoods, simultaneously creating modeled home communities with little to no individuality amongst properties, put up large fences, and everything was based off of the automobile, which led to a mass normalization of U.S. culture. This mass normalization of U.S. culture has created a loss of identity, a separation, a creation of things being impersonable as human relationships were digitalized, and this loss of identity was cemented by the loss of the rubber industry and what we had to identify ourselves as a city. This was brought around by a larger worldwide conditioning that was perfected by colonization in the Roman grid. The grid was created to export resources quickly out of native areas and to create a police state within those areas to keep people under wraps. But in reality, we actually used to create cities like this, where communities protected one another and faced inward to create public spaces in the middle, that because people were more concerned with who they were as a community than they were about what resources they could export and what people they could exploit. This is the main tenet of an organization called the City Repair Project in Portland, Oregon. They're leading urban permaculture for 20 years around sustainable placemaking. They have led in neighbor-led neighborhood design of public spaces, and this has helped Portland create its own identity that it makes the thriving city that it is. Mark Lakeman and his neighbors began to retrofit the grid. They did this through a number of ways of painting the streets, which helped to create identity, slow traffic, as well as create a public commons. And they would create food forest edges to feed their community and shelters for people to hang out and exchange things. But that is not entirely what's most important for us, because Portland is different than Akron. Portland has 500 people that move there every day. Akron has 12 families that move from here every week. And in that, also we have this outdated identity. But what is truly exciting is the neighbor-led neighborhood design or participatory design that is based off of people care, planet care, and equal share. This is done through a technique called tactical urbanism, which is pop-up to semi-permanent structures that can be used to inform and create space to create more permanent design. These are some examples of that happening in Akron. Here we have Better Block and 500 plates that one of my best friends helped to put on. This helps to create what a neighborhood needs in an inexpensive way through people and resource capital that teaches new skills of physical construction, artistic and design principles, community organizing skills, gardening, and energy collection and banking. Why this is so important is to help create healthy urban environments. It is 2016 and it is time to have that conversation. Creating spaces to activate that spur a localized economy through caring for ourselves and the spaces that we inhabit. But mostly it's about you, and it's about me, and it's about us embracing the stranger. Creating a world of overflowing love and abundance through our collective work and resource power. So please join us in our community love as artists, healing practitioners, gardeners, or civic peoples that would love to join us on March 9th or March 12th. And this is because we are in the heart of it all. As Akron can be the heart of Ohio, which is the heart of the United States, and that is how we change the world.
All right, so before we introduce our final speaker for this evening, we actually have a few prizes that we want to raffle off. We'll go ahead and start with 2 pairs of tickets to the Nightlight. So right here we have all of the people who registered on Eventbrite, so we'll go ahead and call a couple names here. So the first pair of tickets is going to go to Kenneth Hughes. So we'll actually email you with that information. Yeah, is Kenneth here? Oh, great, wonderful. And then we have John Algren. Ukrin, you know him. John. All right, great. So we'll email you with that information for you guys to redeem those tickets to the Nightlight. We also have a few other prizes as well. We have some tickets to the Verb Ballet here, and this is Adagio Esposito. Is Adagio here? Okay. Well, you can claim your prize back at the table where you registered when you first came in. We also have a basket from Crafty Mart full of all sorts of handmade goodies, and that goes to Monique Hayes. Is Monique Hayes here? Yeah. Woo! All right, so you can also claim your prize from the registration table, and then I believe that's all our prizes. Oh, of course, we have tickets to the Akron Symphony.
Oh, Akron Civic.
All right, and these go to Albert Melfo.
Hey, Albert.
Albert? Oh, okay. All right, wonderful. So you can also claim your prize back at the registration table. So thank you so much for our sponsors who provided those. Thank you so much for staying here to the end. And we're so excited to introduce, and thank you so much, Nicole, for drawing names for me and not making me bend over. I really appreciate that at this point. So we're going to go ahead and introduce our last speaker here. He has over 10 years of experience of working with at-risk youth and ex-offenders. His name is Ace Epps, and he joined BME as acting community manager in Akron, where he leads efforts in building caring and prosperous communities. He is a certified facilitator for the Ice House Entrepreneur Program and the Thinking for a Change, which is a cognitive-based learning program for ex-offenders, and he's the founder of the SAC program, which is focused on building and sustaining the city of Akron through community building, entrepreneurship, and black male achievement. His talk, titled Born Creators, will look at how schools, parents, and the pursuit of money can unfortunately kill creativity. So I'd like to welcome Ace.
How y'all doing? All right. So, this deserves to be a song instead of an intro, because I use my pencil like Andy Warhol, creating vision, and my decision to connect parables is unbearable to simple-minded rap fans. So I be the MC, visual artist, one-time DJ, spiritual seeker, keynote speaker to your emotions. I am a born creator. Whether it's a poem or doing a painting or even starting a business, I've always been creative. I believe that, this is the subject, I do believe that schools, some parents, and the pursuit of money can stop your creativity. There was a test done, a study, they gave 100 5-year-olds a critical thinking test, the same test they give adults to go to NASA. All of those 5-year-olds passed. They retested them at 10, 5% passed. They retested them again at age 15 and only 3% passed. The older kids, the older they got, the lower the test scores. So researchers wanted to find out what did they have in common. They found out that the only thing they had in common was that they all started school at the same time. School teaches you how to work for the local labor market, not how to create the local labor market. Example, I used to be in love with Captain Kirk. Thought it was a bomb. I was drawn to his little transmitter though, you know, beam me up, Scotty. I thought it'd be great for me to be able to talk on one of them to my mom, so I began to draw and make blueprints on how to make the Kirk XL transmitter. Took it to my teacher, and she told me I was wasting my time. Years later, the flip phone came and gone. However, my inner artist, inspired me to start developing the XL transmitter. However, I was not encouraged. Why? Because thinking outside of the box was never intended for schools. Another example, the Jetsons, stop this crazy thing. I was in love with the way he used to talk on these little computers. I thought it would be great if I could do that with my mom, you know. So I began development on the Jetson 2000. You get it? Showed it to my teacher. And she told me I was wasting my time. Years later, you know what it is. FaceTime. Again, my inner artist, began developing the Jasen 2000. However, I wasn't encouraged. Why? Because they thought I was crazy. FaceTime. School didn't really encourage me, but my mom did. I told her that I wanted to create the cursive numbers because we had cursive letters, right? So why not cursive numbers? She said, great, and gave me a pen and pad. And so I was like, good, I can't wait to go to school. My mom behind me right now, and I'm gonna show my mean math teacher. She said, what is this? I said, it's my cursive numbers. She said, put it away and pass me your homework. I said, well, I did that in cursive numbers too. She sent me to the principal's office. So creativity is basically the use of imagination or original ideas. So I'm glad my mom encouraged me. However, some parents don't encourage creativity in their kids, right? You hear it all the time. Mom, I want to be an actor. Shut up, boy, you're going to be a lawyer or a doctor. But daddy, I want to be a rock star. Shut up, boy, and find a job at the factory making tires so your sister can have something to sell over at Goodyear. That was a joke. However, some parents even say that you're not going to make any money being an artist. In fact, they say graduate from high school, go to college, get a job, and then you make all the money. Now, I'm not anti-education, but seeds have been planted so you would chase the dollar instead of your dreams. All right, so let's look at why some people are more creative than others. Creative people daydream. We don't see it as a waste of time. We observe everything and we see possibilities. We watch people and we also see it as an opportunity for self-expression. Like right about now, I think it's time for a poetry break. What y'all think? Pen hits the paper, mind elevated like skyscrapers without the ism. If you over 30, then listen. Knowledge, wisdom, and understanding coincide like hip-hop over rhythms. Stand back as I give them. Similes and another metaphor to make it better for you and your mind state. Okay, so let's get back to entrepreneurs. All right, entrepreneurs have to be able to identify a problem or create a solution. You identify a problem, you can create a solution. That's, and then somebody will pay for the solution, right? That's business 101. But first you have to be creative. First you have to be innovative. And you have to have inspiration and vision, right? For example, the San Francisco Gold Rush. Everybody went there for gold, right? Except two brothers went to sell tents, you know, thinking outside the box, we selling tents. Come to find out gold miners didn't need tents. They needed something to wear while they was digging for gold. So the older brother saw an opportunity, and he was being creative, and came up with some pants, put some tools in it, and what do you know? Levi's. We're born. Now he was being creative, and he recognized an opportunity, right? And this was 1873, I believe, and you're still buying those pants. I'm just saying, we were able to do that. So encouragement is important and it's necessary to keep new ideas flowing. You know what I'm saying, Toby? To keep these ideas flowing. So encouragement is giving support and confidence or advice to someone so that they will continue to do something. Y'all agree? I agree too. So look, I am a born creator. I've been this way since I was an infant. Whether it's writing a poem, doing a painting, or starting a business, I've always been creative. But I do believe that the status quo can't kill your creativity. So we need to encourage and engage that creative spirit. We need to do that because either you're going to be Steve Jobs or you're going to work for Steve Jobs. Thank you.
Hey, let's give it up for ASAPs. How was that? All right, it says it's the end. Because it's the end, I'm going to talk for exactly 60 seconds, and then we're all going to finish, and we're going to hopefully frequent places in downtown because we need a vibrant downtown, and we got a bunch of people here, so absolutely go across the street and frequent this area. So, and also, a couple people I want to thank. First of all, Western Fruit Basket, thank you so much for the food. Was that not fantastic food? They're on the corner of Summit and Market. If you haven't checked them out and you're like, this is the most amazing food I've ever had, that's where you can find them. Also, I want to give, again, a big shout out to our sponsors, the Knight Foundation, Akron Law, the Akron Global Business Accelerator, the Bit Factory, the Akron Civic, the Akron Symphony, Arts Now, and Crafty Mart. So a big hand of applause for all of them. At this point, I'd like all the organizers, if you could please stand up. So the organizers of Crafty Mart, or of PechaKucha, let's give a big round of applause to all the organizers. And I want to give a special shout out to Howard Parr and the entire crew at the Civic and the board at the Civic. Check this place out, it's such a beautiful venue. The last thing I want to say before we end is that I heard somewhere that Akron is a city of neighbors, and I reject that assertion. I think Akron is a city of family. And if you don't feel the family, it means that you need to get engaged more, because I can tell you that if you start volunteering, if you start getting involved in organizations like PechaKucha Akron or Crafty Mart or Arts Now, all these other organizations, you're going to feel a bond and a connection. And I can tell you that if you're looking for a volunteer opportunity, we might have a place for you here at PechaKucha Akron, because it's a lot of work. And so if you're looking for something to get involved, please see me afterwards or see any of the other organizers. All right, the very, very last thing I'm going to say is that I did this, I said that like 3 times, but I swear this is the last time. At the first PechaKucha, the last thing I said, I screamed the phrase to Akron. And it was so cool because there were 300 people there who just screamed to Akron right back at me. So I thought, what the heck? Why don't we make it a thing at every PechaKucha? So this time we have like 350, 375, something in the house. 400, we have 400 in the house. So this time I'm gonna say to Akron, and then everyone else at the same time is gonna say to Akron right back at me. All right, you ready? 1, 2, 3, to Akron! Good night, everybody. See you at the next PechaKucha.